Quinn, you need to leave. This isn't the time. My father's voice cut through the cold December air as he physically blocked the entrance to our family home. Behind him, through the massive glass doors, I could see 200 guests in designer clothes, crystal chandeliers casting golden light across faces I'd known my entire life. When is the time, Dad? I asked, my breath forming clouds in the freezing night. It's been 12 years. 12 Christmases where I wasn't invited to this house. When exactly would be a good time? His jaw tightened. You chose to leave when you refused to accept your role. Role? I felt something cold settle in my chest. You mean being Blair's assistant? After I graduated from Wharton with an MBA? Blair has instinct, my stepmother Vivian said, appearing beside him. You have theory. There's a difference. I stood there in the snow, watching my father's hand grip the doorframe tighter, and made a decision that would change everything. You're right, I said, stepping back. This isn't the time. My mistake. Relief washed over his face. I'm glad you understand. I do. I understand perfectly. I turned to walk away, then paused. By the way, Dad, you might want to check your email. I sent you something earlier today. Probably in your spam folder. What are you talking about? I smiled, and it wasn't warm. Merry Christmas. Enjoy your party. 3 hours later, my father's company was trending on the Wall Street Journal's website. The headline read, Ashford Capital faces insolvency amid fraud allegations. And the woman who'd just destroyed his empire? That was me. The daughter he said wasn't welcome. My name is Quinn Ashford, and I'm 34 years old. What happened on Christmas Eve 3 years ago didn't just shatter my family, it exposed a betrayal so deep that when the truth finally emerged, it made national business headlines and destroyed 3 lives completely. But before I tell you how a single moment at my childhood home's entrance led to me owning my father's company for literally $1, I want to say something. If you're a subscriber to this channel, thank you. Truly. You have no idea how much your support means. Every like, every comment, every share, it tells me that these stories matter to you as much as they matter to me, and for those of you who are new here, welcome to Revenge with Alice. This is a space where we talk about real stories, real betrayals, and real consequences. If that resonates with you, hit that subscribe button. You're exactly where you need to be. Now, before we go any further, I want to take just a moment to say a prayer. Not about this story, just for you. May you find strength in your darkest moments. May you discover courage when everything feels impossible. May you never forget your worth, even when the people closest to you try to make you doubt it. May you build something so beautiful that it shines brighter than any rejection you've ever faced. And may you always remember that being underestimated is sometimes the greatest gift you can receive. Amen. All right. Let's get into this story. Where are you watching from right now? Drop your location in the comments below. I genuinely read every single one. And if you've ever been invisible to the people who were supposed to see you most, if you've ever been dismissed as a failure while secretly building an empire, this story is going to hit different, because what they didn't know, what no one knew, was that while my family was treating me like I didn't exist, I was building a billion-dollar tech company that would eventually own everything they had. And it all came to a head on one snowy Christmas Eve in Greenwich, Connecticut. The Uber driver's GPS announced our arrival at 7:47 p.m. I looked out the window at the Ashford estate, and for just a second, I was 8 years old again. Back when this house felt like home. Back when my mother was alive and my father looked at me with pride instead of disappointment. Miss? The driver's voice pulled me back. This is the address you gave me. Yes. Thank you. He helped me with my luggage, a single leather overnight bag that I'd bought in Tokyo last month. It cost more than most people's monthly rent, but my family didn't know that. They didn't know anything about my life. I'd flown in from Seattle specifically for tonight. Not for sentimentality. For strategy. Through the massive windows, I could see the party in full swing. Designer dresses in emerald and ruby red. Men in custom tuxedos. Champagne flutes catching the light. My father had always known how to throw a party for Connecticut's elite. The snow was falling thick and fast now, coating the circular driveway where at least 30 luxury cars were parked. Mercedes, BMW, a Bentley, 2 Teslas. The kind of wealth that whispered instead of shouted. I paid the driver, added a generous tip, and started up the stone steps to the entrance point. 12 years. It had been 12 years since I'd walked through that door. 12 years since my father told me I wasn't cut out for the family business. 12 years since he'd handed everything to my half-sister Blair when she turned 18. 12 years since he'd married Blair's mother, Vivian, exactly 6 months after my mother's death from cancer. 6 months. He couldn't even wait a year. I rang the doorbell, watching my breath form clouds in the December cold. Behind the glass, I could see garland wrapped around the banister, a massive Christmas tree in the foyer, and people I recognized from country clubs and charity galas. The door opened, and Maria's face appeared. Our housekeeper. The woman who'd been with our family for 20 years, Miss Quinn. Her eyes went wide, then filled with tears. "Oh my God, you came." Before she could embrace me, a voice cut through the moment. "Quinn, not a greeting. A statement. An accusation." My father appeared in the doorway, and I watched his face cycle through emotions in rapid succession. Shock. Confusion. Then something cold and hard settling into place. Warren Ashford at 63 was still a striking man. Silver hair perfectly styled. Sharp jawline. Custom Tom Ford tuxedo that probably cost more than my first car. He'd always looked like old money, even though my grandfather had been the one to build the family fortune from nothing. "Merry Christmas, Dad." He stepped forward deliberately, physically blocking the entrance. Behind him, I could see guests beginning to notice. Conversations quieting. Heads turning. "What are you doing here?" His tone was flat. Not surprised. Not happy. Just cold. I pulled out my phone, showing him the embossed digital invitation that had arrived in my inbox 4 weeks ago. I was invited. Vivian sent me an invitation. Christmas Eve gala at the Ashford estate. Family welcome. His eyes scanned the screen, and I saw his jaw tighten. "That wasn't meant for you." His voice was low but firm. "Blair's engagement party is tonight. This is an important evening. We have potential investors here." Potential investors. Of course, I'd done my research before flying out here. Ashford Capital, the investment firm my grandfather had built 50 years ago and my father had run for the last 30, was hemorrhaging money. Bad deals, worse timing, and Warren's stubborn refusal to adapt to changing markets had left them on the verge of bankruptcy. Family, I said simply. Warren's jaw tightened. Behind him, Vivian glided over, her smile frozen in place like a porcelain mask. She wore a burgundy gown that probably cost more than some people's cars, her blonde hair swept up in an elaborate style. "Warren, what's going on?" "Oh." Her eyes landed on me, and her expression shifted to something between disgust and alarm. "Quinn." "How unexpected." She said my name like it left a bad taste in her mouth. "Mother sent me an invitation," I said, emphasizing the word mother with deliberate irony. Vivian had never been my mother. She'd been the woman my father married before my real mother was even cold in the ground. "There must have been some mistake," Vivian said, her voice dripping with false concern. "Tonight is really about Blair and Trevor. It's their special night. I'm sure you understand that your presence would be inappropriate?" I finished for her. "Unwelcome? Is that what you're trying to say?" My father placed his hand on the doorframe, a physical barrier between me and the warm house beyond. "Quinn, you need to leave. This isn't the time." "When is the time, Dad?" I felt my voice rising slightly, 12 years of silence finally cracking. It's been 12 years. 12 Christmases, 12 Thanksgivings, 12 birthdays where I wasn't invited to this house. "When exactly would be a good time? You chose to leave," Warren said, his voice rising to match mine. "You chose to walk away from this family when you refused to accept your role. My role." The words hit me like a physical blow, and suddenly I was 22 again. Sitting at the dining room table 2 months after my mother's funeral. Still numb with grief. Still trying to understand why my father had moved on so quickly with Vivian and Warren had gathered Blair, then barely 18, and me around that same table. "I have an announcement," he'd said, not even looking at me. "I'm making Blair managing director of Ashford Capital. She has a natural aptitude for the business." I'd been fresh from Wharton with an MBA in finance. My thesis on emerging tech markets had been published in 3 academic journals. I'd graduated summa cum laude, and what about me? I'd asked. "You can work under Blair," he'd said, as if offering me a gift. "Executive assistant position. Learn the business from the ground up." "I have an MBA from Wharton," Blair has instinct, Vivian had interjected smoothly. "She understands people in a way that can't be taught. That's worth more than any degree." Blair had instinct. "I had an Ivy League education, 3 published papers, and recommendations from professors who said I was the most talented student they'd seen in years, but instinct, apparently, was worth more when it came wrapped in Vivian's daughter. Now, standing on those same steps 12 years later, watching my father physically bar me from entry, something inside me shifted, from hurt to something else, something colder. "Something calculated. You're right," I said, stepping back into the snow. "This isn't the time. My mistake." Relief washed over Warren's face. Actual, visible relief that I was leaving without causing a scene. "I'm glad you understand," he said. "Did I do?" "I understand perfectly." I turned to walk away, then paused. The Uber was still at the end of the driveway, waiting to make sure I got inside safely. By the way, Dad, you might want to check your email. I sent you something earlier today. Probably in your spam folder. What are you talking about? I looked back at him. At this man who'd chosen a new wife and stepdaughter over his own flesh and blood. Who'd given away my inheritance to someone else. Who'd erased me so completely that even an invitation to the family Christmas party wasn't meant for me. "Merry Christmas," I said, and smiled. It wasn't warm. "Enjoy your party." As I walked back to the waiting Uber, snow crunching under my heels, I pulled out my phone and sent a single text message to my lawyer. Then I opened my email and forwarded one message to 5 key people: Warren Ashford's 3 largest remaining investors, the business editor at the Wall Street Journal, and Edmund Grayson, chairman of Grayson International, Trevor's father, and as of 3 hours ago, the majority shareholder of my company's newest acquisition. The subject line read, "Regarding Ashford Capital and outstanding debts." The body of the email was simple: "Please see attached documentation regarding financial irregularities and misrepresentation of assets." For immediate release, December 24th, 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The driver looked at me in the rearview mirror as I settled into the back seat. "Everything okay, miss?" "Yes," I said, watching the estate grow smaller in the distance. "Everything's perfect. Let me tell you something about revenge. It's not a dish best served cold. It's a strategy best executed with precision, patience, and perfect timing, and I'd been planning this for 18 months. The Greenwich Harbor Inn was a boutique hotel 3 miles from the estate. 5 stars, discreet, and expensive enough that nobody asked questions. I checked in using my company credit card, the one that listed me as CEO of Apex Systems, not Quinn Ashford. Family disappointment. "Will you need help with your luggage, Ms. Chin?" the concierge asked, using the name on my reservation. "No, thank you. I'm fine." The room was on the 8th floor with a view of Long Island Sound. I could see the lights from boats in the harbor, their reflections dancing on dark water. It was 8:43 p.m. The release was scheduled for 11:00 p.m. 2 hours and 17 minutes. I set my bag down, kicked off my heels, and opened my laptop. My inbox was already filling up with confirmation emails from my legal team. From Patricia Morrison, Morrison & Associates. Documentation has been delivered to all specified parties. Release protocols are in place. Awaiting your final authorization. My finger hovered over the keyboard. This was it. The point of no return. Once I hit send, there would be no taking it back. My father's company would be exposed. His fraud would become public knowledge. Everything he built on lies and my mother's stolen money would collapse. I thought about my mother. Rebecca Ashford, née Morrison. Warren Ashford, CEO of Connecticut-based investment firm Ashford Capital, faces federal investigation after evidence surfaced of systematic fraud spanning more than a decade. Documents obtained by the Wall Street Journal reveal misappropriation of funds, forged documents, and fraudulent loan applications totaling more than $12 million. I scrolled down, reading the details I'd provided. The reporters had done their job well. Perhaps most shocking is the revelation that Ashford allegedly diverted funds from his late ex-wife's trust money legally designated for their daughter, Quinn Ashford, into failing investments to cover previous losses. My phone buzzed again. Another article, this one from Bloomberg. Tech mogul reveals decade-long acquisition strategy while Warren Ashford's fraud comes to light. An equally surprising story emerges. His estranged daughter, Quinn Ashford, 34, is the CEO of Apex Systems, a Seattle-based tech company valued at $1.2 billion. And another, Quinn Ashford, from outcast daughter to Silicon Valley powerhouse. The business community moved fast. Within 20 minutes, my name was trending on LinkedIn. At 11:09 p.m., my phone rang. Reed's name lit up the screen. "Did you see it?" he asked. His voice was warm with barely contained laughter. "I'm reading it now. Your father's phone has been ringing non-stop. I can see it from here. I'm at a charity thing with Edmund Grayson. He just got the documents you sent." His face went completely white. Edmund Grayson. Trevor's father and chairman of Grayson International. What did he say? He excused himself from our table, made a phone call, then came back and told me Trevor's engagement to Blair is under review. Apparently, the Grayson family doesn't marry into families facing federal fraud charges. I felt a flicker of satisfaction. Not joy, exactly. More like vindication. And Blair? I asked. From what Edmund said, she's already negotiating her own severance package with Ashford Capital's creditors. Smart girl. She's trying to distance herself before the whole thing goes down, she learned from Vivian. Always protect yourself first, Reed laughed, but it was hollow. You know what the best part is? The part about the debt acquisition. Everyone's losing their minds trying to figure out who's been buying up Ashford Capital's debts for the past 18 months, and nobody's put it together yet. The holding companies, the offshore entities, the complex structures, it's all too buried. But they will. Give it another hour, maybe two. He was right. The debt acquisition was the real story. For 18 months, I'd been systematically buying up every piece of leverage Warren Ashford had foolishly extended. Every loan. Every note. Every line of credit, through shell companies. Through holding entities registered in Delaware, Nevada, and the Cayman Islands. Through a web of legal structures so complex that even forensic accountants would need weeks to trace it all back, but it all led to the same place, Apex Systems. It all led to me. I own my father's debt. Every dollar he owed to me. How long before someone figures it out? I asked. The Wall Street Journal already has financial analysts working on it. My guess? Tomorrow morning, headlines. Daughter owns father's debt. It'll be everywhere. Good, you sound calm. I am calm. I've been planning this for a year and a half, Reed. I knew exactly what would happen. And how do you feel? I looked out at the harbor, at the boats rocking gently in their slips. How did I feel? She died 3 years after the divorce, 2 months before my 22nd birthday. Ovarian cancer. Stage 4 by the time they caught it. She'd left me everything in her will. A trust fund worth $800,000. Property in Boston. Stocks and bonds carefully managed over 20 years of marriage, except I never saw most of it. Warren had been the executor of her estate. He'd used legal loopholes and forged documents to divert funds into Ashford Capital, claiming they were community assets from the marriage. By the time I understood what had happened, most of the money was gone. All I got was $200,000 from my maternal grandmother's separate trust, the one Warren couldn't touch. I'd used that money to start Apex Systems 12 years ago. Built it from nothing. And now my company was worth $1.20 billion. My phone buzzed. A text from Reed Calloway, my boyfriend of 8 months. Are you sure about this? I typed back, yes, once it's out there, I know, okay. I'm here if you need me. Love you too, Reed understood. He'd been pushed out of a deal 7 years ago by investors who thought he was too young, too idealistic, too naive. One of those investors had been Warren Ashford. Reed had spent the next 5 years building his venture capital firm into one of the most successful on the West Coast. When he found out who my father was, he'd laughed. "Warren Ashford is your dad?" "The same Warren Ashford who told me I'd never make it in this industry, the very same." "Well," he'd said, kissing my forehead, "I guess we both proved him wrong." Now, sitting in this hotel room with my finger on the trigger, I thought about what Reed had said last week. Make sure you're doing this for the right reasons. Not just because you're angry. What are the right reasons? Justice. Protection. Making sure he can't hurt anyone else. I looked at the documents on my screen. Evidence of fraud. Embezzlement. Forged signatures. Loans taken out in my mother's name after she was dead. This wasn't about anger, this was about truth. I clicked send, authorization confirmed. Proceed with release. At 11 p.m., the world would know exactly who Warren Ashford really was. I poured myself a glass of wine from the minibar and settled onto the bed, laptop open, phone beside me. Now I waited. At 10:47 p.m., my phone started buzzing, not calls from my family, they didn't have my current number. I'd changed it 4 years ago. Notifications. LinkedIn. Twitter. Email alerts. News apps. At 10:52 p.m., the Wall Street Journal published their article. Ashford Capital faces insolvency amid fraud allegations. Warren Ashford, CEO of Connecticut-based investment firm Ashford Capital, faces federal investigation after evidence surfaced of systematic fraud spanning more than a decade. Documents obtained by the Wall Street Journal reveal misappropriation of funds, forged documents, and fraudulent loan applications totaling more than $12 million. I scrolled down, reading the details I'd provided. The reporters had done their job well. Perhaps most shocking is the revelation that Ashford allegedly diverted funds from his late ex-wife's trust money legally designated for their daughter, Quinn Ashford, into failing investments to cover previous losses. My phone buzzed again. Another article, this one from Bloomberg. Tech mogul reveals decade-long acquisition strategy while Warren Ashford's fraud comes to light. An equally surprising story emerges. His estranged daughter, Quinn Ashford, 34, is the CEO of Apex Systems, a Seattle-based tech company valued at $1.2 billion. And another, Quinn Ashford, from outcast daughter to Silicon Valley powerhouse. The business community moved fast. Within 20 minutes, my name was trending on LinkedIn. At 11:09 p.m., my phone rang. Reed's name lit up the screen. "Did you see it?" he asked. His voice was warm with barely contained laughter. "I'm reading it now. Your father's phone has been ringing non-stop. I can see it from here. I'm at a charity thing with Edmund Grayson. He just got the documents you sent." His face went completely white. Edmund Grayson. Trevor's father and chairman of Grayson International. What did he say? He excused himself from our table, made a phone call, then came back and told me Trevor's engagement to Blair is under review. Apparently, the Grayson family doesn't marry into families facing federal fraud charges. I felt a flicker of satisfaction. Not joy, exactly. More like vindication. And Blair? I asked. From what Edmund said, she's already negotiating her own severance package with Ashford Capital's creditors. Smart girl. She's trying to distance herself before the whole thing goes down, she learned from Vivian. Always protect yourself first, Reed laughed, but it was hollow. You know what the best part is? The part about the debt acquisition. Everyone's losing their minds trying to figure out who's been buying up Ashford Capital's debts for the past 18 months, and nobody's put it together yet. The holding companies, the offshore entities, the complex structures, it's all too buried. But they will. Give it another hour, maybe two. He was right. The debt acquisition was the real story. For 18 months, I'd been systematically buying up every piece of leverage Warren Ashford had foolishly extended. Every loan. Every note. Every line of credit, through shell companies. Through holding entities registered in Delaware, Nevada, and the Cayman Islands. Through a web of legal structures so complex that even forensic accountants would need weeks to trace it all back, but it all led to the same place, Apex Systems. It all led to me. I own my father's debt. Every dollar he owed to me. How long before someone figures it out? I asked. The Wall Street Journal already has financial analysts working on it. My guess? Tomorrow morning, headlines. Daughter owns father's debt. It'll be everywhere. Good, you sound calm. I am calm. I've been planning this for a year and a half, Reed. I knew exactly what would happen, and how do you feel? I looked out at the harbor, at the boats rocking gently in their slips. How did I feel? Satisfied, I said finally. For 12 years, I've been invisible to them. Now they can't look away. Your father's going to call you. He doesn't have my number. He'll find it, then I won't answer. Reed was quiet for a moment. You know this changes everything, right? Your relationship with them. Your family. Once this is out, there's no going back. There was never anything to go back to, I said softly. They made sure of that 12 years ago. After we hung up, I opened my email. The inbox was flooding with messages. PR firms offering their services. Journalists requesting interviews. Investment analysts asking for comments, and then I saw it, from blairashford@gmail.com. Subject, what the hell did you do? I opened it. Quinn, I don't know if you'll even read this. I don't know if you care. But whatever you just did, whatever you released to the press, Mom and Dad are losing their minds. Trevor's father just called. The engagement is off. His family won't let him marry into this. Do you understand what you've done? Do you understand what this means? We're ruined. You've ruined everything. I hope you're happy. I stared at the words. Ruined everything. As if there had been anything real to ruin. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened my photos and scrolled through my camera roll. There it was. The photo I'd saved months ago. Me at 22, serving coffee at Blair's first board meeting. I was in the background, barely visible, holding a tray. Blair was front and center, laughing with executives 3 times her age. The caption underneath, posted by my father's company account, meet our new managing director, Blair Ashford. The future of Ashford Capital. No mention of me. No acknowledgement that I was even in the room. I'd saved that photo for moments like this. Moments when I wondered if I was being too harsh. Too vengeful. Too cruel. Then I'd look at it and remember, they erased me first. My phone buzzed with another text from Reed. Check Twitter. #Ashford scandal is trending. I opened the app. He was right. My father's name was everywhere, but so was mine. Quinn Ashford is a CEO? I thought she was unemployed. Wait, the daughter he cut off is worth over $1 billion? Plot twist. This is the best revenge story I've ever heard. Warren Ashford destroyed by the daughter he rejected. She bought his debt. She bought his debt. This woman is playing chess while everyone else plays checkers. I scrolled through hundreds of comments. Some sympathetic to my father. Most not. At 11:47 p.m., another email arrived. This one from a number I didn't recognize, from vivianashford@yahoo.com. Subject, you vindictive little. I deleted it without reading the rest. At midnight, exactly on schedule, the second wave of articles hit. Debt acquisition mystery solved. Daughter owns father's company. Financial analysts have traced the complex web of holding companies that acquired Ashford Capital's debt over the past 18 months. All entities lead back to Apex Systems, the tech company owned by Quinn Ashford, Warren Ashford's estranged daughter. The article included a breakdown. A chart showing the flow of money. The timeline of acquisitions. The total amount of debt now held by my companies, $47 million. $47 million in loans, lines of credit, and outstanding debts, all of it mine. My phone rang again. Unknown number. I didn't answer. Another call. Another unknown number. Decline. Text messages started flooding in from numbers I didn't recognize. Is this Quinn Ashford? I'm a reporter with Ms. Ashford. I'd like to discuss your father is trying to reach. I turned off notifications and opened my laptop instead. The family estate in Greenwich was worth $8.5 million, but it had a $4 million mortgage. Warren's personal accounts were overdrawn. His investment portfolio had crashed. And now, with the fraud allegations public, his remaining clients were pulling their money. Ashford Capital would be bankrupt within a week, unless someone bought it. Someone like me. At 12:34 a.m., Reed called again. "You're not going to believe what just happened," he said. "Try me. I'm still at this charity event with Edmund Grayson. He just got a call from Trevor." Apparently, Blair showed up at Trevor's apartment an hour ago, trying to convince him that she had nothing to do with her father's fraud. That she's a victim too. And? Trevor told her he needs space. That his family can't be associated with this scandal. Blair left crying. I should have felt satisfaction. Instead, I felt something closer to pity. Blair hadn't asked to be Warren's golden child. She hadn't asked for Vivian to poison every interaction. She'd just been born into the role, and she played it because it was easier than fighting. "There's more," Reed continued. "Edmund just offered me a deal. He wants Grayson International to partner with Apex Systems on the new resort development in Palm Springs. He said, and I quote, 'Anyone smart enough to execute a strategic takedown like this is someone I want in business with. He wants to work with me because I destroyed my father's company? He wants to work with you because you're brilliant. And because you proved you don't back down from difficult decisions.'" I leaned back against the headboard, processing. "What did you tell him?" I said I'd pass along the message. "Quinn, this is a $200 million deal. It's exactly the kind of project we've been looking for. And the fact that Trevor was engaged to Blair doesn't bother him? I think that engagement was always more about business than love. Blair was supposed to bring social connections, family prestige. Now that prestige is gone, so is the engagement. Cold. But true. I'll think about it," I said. "Also," Reed's voice softened, "how are you?" "Really, how was I? I just exposed my father's fraud to the world. Destroyed his company. Ruined my half-sister's engagement. Made myself the most talked about CEO in America. Honestly, I feel lighter. Like I've been carrying something heavy for 12 years, and I finally set it down. No regrets? None, not even about Blair? She didn't create this situation. I thought about that. Blair chose her side a long time ago. Every board meeting where she sat at the head of the table while I served coffee. Every family dinner where she talked about her company. Every time she went along with Vivian's narrative that I was the problem. She made choices too. Fair enough. Reed, can I ask you something? Anything. When you were pushed out of that deal 7 years ago, when those investors told you you'd never make it, did you ever doubt yourself?" He was quiet for a moment. "Every single day for about 6 months. Then I realized something. Their opinion of me said more about them than it did about me. They couldn't see my potential because they were too busy protecting their own territory. How did you get past it?" I stopped trying to prove them wrong and started building something they couldn't ignore. "Same thing you did," I smiled. "I'm glad I met you. I'm glad you let me in. I know trust doesn't come easy for you. No. It doesn't. Get some sleep, Quinn. Tomorrow's going to be intense. Every news outlet in the country is going to want a statement, I know. My PR team is already drafting responses. I love you. I love you too." After he hung up, I sat in the quiet hotel room, listening to the hum of the heating system and the distant sound of traffic. My phone was still blowing up with notifications, but I ignored them all. Tomorrow, I'd face the consequences of what I'd done. Tomorrow, I'd deal with journalists and lawyers and probably my father's desperate attempts to contact me, but tonight, I'd done what I set out to do. I'd made sure they could never ignore me again. I woke up at 6:47 a.m. to sunlight streaming through the hotel curtains. My phone showed 283 missed calls. 461 text messages. 1,847 emails. I ignored all of them. Instead, I ordered room service scrambled eggs, fresh fruit, black coffee, and he took a long shower. By the time I was dressed in dark jeans and a cashmere sweater, it was 8:15 a.m., time to go back. The Uber driver who picked me up was a woman in her 50s named Patricia. "Heading to the Ashford estate?" she asked, checking the address. "Yes, big place." I drove past it once. Beautiful house it is, she glanced at me in the rearview mirror. You family? Something like that. We drove in comfortable silence through Greenwich's snow-covered streets. Christmas morning was quiet. Most people were home with their families, opening presents, drinking hot chocolate, pretending everything was perfect. When we pulled up to the estate at 8:52 a.m., the change was immediate. No cars in the driveway except Warren's Mercedes and Vivian's Range Rover. The Christmas lights that had glowed so beautifully last night looked dim in the morning sun. Even the house itself seemed smaller somehow. Less imposing. You want me to wait? Patricia asked. No, thank you. I'll call another ride when I'm ready. Merry Christmas, honey. You too. I walked up the stone steps, the same steps where my father had blocked me 12 hours ago, and rang the doorbell. Maria answered within seconds. Her eyes were red and swollen. Miss Quinn. Her voice cracked. Thank God you're here. What's wrong? Everything. Your father's been on the phone all night. Miss Blair won't come out of her room. Mrs. Vivian is packing her things, saying she's leaving. She pulled me inside, lowering her voice to a whisper. The police called this morning. Something about fraud charges. Your father locked himself in his study 4 hours ago. I don't think he's slept. Where is he now? Still in the study. Take me to him. Maria led me through the house. The party decorations from last night were still up. Half-empty champagne glasses on side tables. Abandoned plates of hors d'oeuvres. Someone's coat draped over a chair, the aftermath of a celebration that had ended abruptly. We stopped outside Warren's study. Maria hesitated. Should I announce you? No. I'll go in myself. She squeezed my hand once, then disappeared down the hallway. I stood there for a moment, staring at the dark wooden door. Behind it was the man who'd raised me. Who'd taught me to ride a bike and helped me with homework. Who'd also erased me from his life the moment it became convenient. I knocked twice and opened the door without waiting for permission. Warren sat behind his massive mahogany desk, and I almost didn't recognize him. His silver hair was disheveled. His face was pale and drawn, with dark circles under his eyes that made him look 10 years older. Papers were scattered across every surface: financial statements, legal documents, printed news articles. His computer screen showed his plummeting stock portfolio. Red numbers everywhere. He looked up when I entered, and for the first time in my life, I saw genuine fear in his eyes. Quinn, Dad. I closed the door behind me and took a seat in the leather chair across from his desk. The same chair where I'd sat 12 years ago when he told me I'd be working under Blair. Silence stretched between us. Outside, I could hear Maria vacuuming somewhere. The hum of the refrigerator in the distant kitchen. Normal sounds in a house that was falling apart. Finally, Warren spoke. Was it all planned? Everything? His voice was hoarse, like he'd been shouting. Or crying. I crossed my legs, deliberately casual. Which part? Building a billion-dollar company? Or systematically buying up your debts until I owned controlling interest in everything you've ever touched? Both. The company was survival. I built Apex Systems because I had no other choice. You made sure of that when you cut me off. I leaned forward slightly. The debt acquisition was insurance. Against what? Against nights like last night. Against being told I'm not welcome in my own home. Against 12 years of being erased. I held his gaze. You want to know the funny thing, Dad? I didn't come here for revenge. I came here because part of me, some stupid, naive part, thought maybe you'd changed. Maybe after 12 years, you'd look at me and see your daughter. Not a threat. Not a disappointment. Just me. Warren's hands trembled as he reached for a glass of water on his desk. It was empty. He set it back down. But you didn't, I continued. You looked at me like I was trash on your doorstep. And in that moment, standing there in the snow while you blocked the door, I made a decision. What decision? To stop hoping you'd ever see me. And to start making sure everyone else does, I pulled a manila folder from my bag and slid it across the desk. It landed with a soft thud among the scattered papers. What is this? Your options. Warren opened the folder with shaking hands. His eyes scanned the first page, then the second. I watched his face drain of what little color it had left. Option 1, I said calmly, declare bankruptcy, face federal charges for fraud and embezzlement, and lose everything. This house, your reputation, your freedom. The prosecution has enough evidence to put you away for 15 to 20 years. He looked up at me, mouth opening to speak, but no words came out. Option 2, sell me Ashford Capital for $1. What? You sell me the company. I assume all debts, all legal liability. In exchange, you sign papers that legally separate you from any financial responsibility. The fraud charges get dropped because the company makes full restitution under new management. He stopped, swallowed hard. That's extortion. That's business, Dad. And honestly? It's generous. Most creditors would let you drown and buy the pieces at auction for pennies on the dollar. This way, you avoid prison and get to tell people you retired. You get to keep some dignity. And if I refuse? Then option 1 happens automatically. Federal prosecutors move forward with charges. You lose everything anyway, but you do it from a prison cell. And I still buy the company just at bankruptcy auction instead of private sale. Warren's hands were shaking so badly now that he had to press them flat on the desk to steady them. Why? His voice broke. Why would you save me? I stood up, smoothing my sweater. I'm not saving you, Dad. I'm saving the company Grandpa built. The one you almost destroyed because you were too proud to see that your daughter was more capable than your stepdaughter ever was. Quinn, please, you have 24 hours to sign those papers. After that, my lawyers will be significantly less generous. I walked toward the door, then paused with my hand on the handle. Oh, and Dad? Maria's salary is tripling effective immediately. Consider it a Christmas bonus for being the only person in this house who ever treated me like I mattered. I opened the door and found Blair standing in the hallway. Blair looked terrible. Her designer pajamas were wrinkled. Her blonde hair was tangled. Her face was blotchy and swollen from crying. Without makeup, she looked younger. More vulnerable, Quinn. Her voice was small. Can we talk? Part of me wanted to walk past her. To leave her standing there the way they'd left me standing in the snow last night, but another part, the part that remembered us playing dress-up as kids, before Vivian's poison took hold, made me stop. 5 minutes till we walked to the library. Or what used to be the library before Vivian converted it into Blair's personal sitting room. Cream-colored furniture. Abstract art on the walls. A vanity covered with expensive makeup. Blair sat on the edge of the couch, twisting her hands in her lap. Trevor broke off the engagement. I know, his father won't let him marry someone from a family under federal investigation. He said the Grayson name can't be associated with fraud. I leaned against the doorframe. I'm sorry. She looked up, surprise flashing across her face. Are you? You destroyed everything. No, Blair. Dad destroyed everything. I just exposed it. But you planned this. You bought his debt. You sent those documents to the press. You knew exactly what would happen. Yes, I did. Why? Her voice rose, anger breaking through the sadness. What did I ever do to you? I stared at her. Do you really not know? We were sisters. We grew up together, were we? I pushed off the doorframe and walked closer. Because I remember serving you coffee at board meetings while you sat at the head of the table. I remember you introducing yourself as the managing director of Ashford Capital to people who asked what I did for a living. I remember Christmas dinners where you opened presents worth thousands while I got gift cards. Mom said you preferred practical gifts. Mom. You mean Vivian? Blair flinched. She's been good to me. She erased me. And you let her do. I was 18. I didn't know what was happening. You knew enough. I sat down across from her. Every time someone asked about me, you could have said, my sister has an MBA from Wharton. Every time they gave you credit for something, you could have said, actually, Quinn helped with that. You had 1,000 opportunities to see me, Blair. You chose not to. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I didn't know how. Mom made it seem like you were the problem. Like you were difficult and ungrateful. She said you chose to leave. I left because staying meant accepting that I'd never be good enough. Not for Dad. Not for Vivian. Not even for you. I'm sorry. Her voice was barely a whisper. I'm so sorry, Quinn. I should have stood up for you. I should have questioned things. But it was easier to believe Mom's version. Easier to accept that you just didn't care about us. I studied her face. Looking for deception. Finding only genuine regret. What are you going to do now? I asked. I don't know. Trevor's gone. Dad's company is collapsing. I have some money saved, but not much. Definitely not enough to maintain the lifestyle I'm used to. I pulled another envelope from my bag. This is for you. Blair took it hesitantly. What is it? A settlement offer. $500,000. Plus a recommendation letter for any job you want. But there are conditions. What conditions? You move out of this house. You get your own place, your own job. You build something that's yours, not handed to you. And you go to therapy, to understand the family dynamics that created this mess. To learn how to stand on your own. To become someone real instead of Vivian's dress-up doll. Blair opened the envelope with trembling fingers. Inside was a cashier's check and a detailed settlement agreement. This is more than generous, she whispered. It's more than you deserve. But it's what you need to start over. Why are you being nice to me? Because unlike Dad, I don't believe in punishing people for being born. You got the easier path, but that wasn't your choice. It was his. And Vivian's. I stood up. You're not stupid, Blair. You're just spoiled. There's a difference. Use this chance to figure out who you are without them telling you. She looked up at me, tears still streaming. Will you ever forgive me? I don't know. Maybe. But I need you to become someone worth forgiving first. I left her sitting there, holding the envelope, and went to find Vivian. I found Vivian in the morning room, surrounded by open luggage. She was packing designer clothes into suitcases, moving with sharp, angry movements. A bottle of champagne sat on the side table, already half empty despite it being 9:30 a.m. Come to gloat? She asked without looking up. I came to make sure Dad understood his options. You've ruined us. She threw a cashmere scarf into a suitcase. Do you understand that? Ruined us completely. You ruined yourselves. I just decided to stop being collateral damage. Vivian finally looked at me. Her perfect makeup from last night was smudged. Her hair, usually styled immaculately, hung limp around her shoulders. Without the armor of her beauty routine, she looked older. Harder. What do you want, Quinn? Really? I want what I've always wanted. To be seen for who I am, not who you decided I should be. And who are you? There was something calculating in her eyes. Even now, even defeated, she was looking for angles. I'm the daughter who inherited her mother's intelligence and her grandfather's business sense. I'm the woman who built a billion-dollar company before her 35th birthday. I'm the CEO who just bought your husband's legacy for $1. I smiled. I'm the one who won, Vivian. Finally, she took a long drink from her champagne glass. You think this is winning? Destroying your family? You destroyed this family the day you married my father 6 months after my mother died. You poisoned his relationship with me because you wanted Blair to be the only daughter that mattered. You turned my childhood home into a place where I was never welcomed. I gave Blair opportunities, you gave Blair stolen opportunities. That managing director position? Should have been mine. The trust fund Dad used to finance Blair's lifestyle? That was my mother's money. Every advantage you gave your daughter came at my expense. Vivian's mask slipped for just a second. I saw guilt flash across her face before she covered it with anger. So what now? You take everything and leave us with nothing? I'm leaving you with choices. Dad can sign the papers and retire quietly. Blair has a settlement offer that'll give her a fresh start. And you? I gestured to her suitcases. You can leave with whatever you can carry. Or you can stay and face the consequences of enabling fraud. I didn't know about the fraud, you knew enough. You knew where the money was coming from. You knew Dad was struggling. You just didn't care as long as you got to play Queen of Greenwich society. She was quiet for a long moment, then asked, "What about Maria?" The question surprised me. What about her? Will you fire her? When you take over the company and sell this house, why would I fire Maria? She's one of the few people in this house who showed me kindness. So you'll keep her on? I already tripled her salary. And I'm setting up a pension fund for her. She's been loyal to this family for 20 years. She deserves better than she got. Something in Vivian's expression shifted. You're not as cold as you pretend to be. I'm not cold at all. I'm just done accepting less than I deserve. I headed for the door. Pack your things, Vivian. Whatever happens with Dad, this house will be sold within the month. Find somewhere else to land. As I reached the hallway, she called after me, "Quinn." I turned back. "For what it's worth," she said quietly, "you were always smarter than Blair." I knew it. Warren knew it. That's why I worked so hard to keep you away from the business. You were a threat to everything I'd built for my daughter. It was the closest thing to an honest conversation we'd ever had. "Thank you for admitting it," I said. "But it doesn't change anything." I left her there, packing her designer clothes, the ruins of her social climbing scattered around her like broken glass. I walked through the house one last time, looking at the place where I'd grown up. The place that had stopped being home long before I left. In 12 hours, I'd changed everything. Exposed fraud. Destroyed reputations. Taken control of my father's company, and you know what? I'd do it again. If you've ever had to choose between being accepted and being respected, you know the choice isn't easy. But let me ask you this, are you Team Quinn for taking down a corrupt system? Or do you think family loyalty should have stopped me from exposing the truth? Drop your honest opinion in the comments. I want to hear both sides. I want to know if you think I went too far, or if you think justice demanded exactly this, and if you believe that sometimes the kindest thing you can do is refuse to enable someone's lies. Hit that subscribe button. Share this with someone who's ever been made to feel small by the people who should have built them up, because here's what I learned, your silence doesn't keep the peace. It just protects the guilty. The lobby of the newly renamed building gleamed in the afternoon sun. Ashford Apex Capital. The brass letters were mounted on the wall behind the reception desk, a fusion of my grandfather's legacy and my own creation. It was June now. 6 months since that Christmas Eve when everything changed. Warren had signed the papers. 23 hours and 47 minutes after I gave him the ultimatum, his attorney delivered the signed documents to my legal team. Ashford Capital became mine for exactly $1. The company had been reorganized, restructured, and repositioned as a tech-forward investment firm. We'd settled the fraud charges by making full restitution to defrauded investors, $12.3 million pay from company reserves that I personally funded. The federal investigation was closed. The Ashford name, while damaged, was slowly being rebuilt under my leadership. Our portfolio was up 340% in the first quarter alone. I stood in the lobby now, watching employees move through the space with purpose. 52 people worked here. Good people. Smart people. People who deserved better than Warren's mismanagement. Maria walked past carrying a coffee tray, but now she wore business casual instead of a housekeeper's uniform. I'd offered her a position as my executive assistant. She cried when I made the offer. "Miss Quinn?" She stopped beside me. "Your 2 p.m. meeting is in 10 minutes, thank you, Maria." She smiled that same warm smile from when I was a child and continued to the conference room. My phone buzzed. Reed's name appeared on screen. Still on for dinner tonight? I typed back. Yes. 7 p.m.? Perfect. I love you too. Reed had been my anchor through all of this. When the media frenzy reached its peak, when journalists camped outside my Seattle apartment, when former colleagues questioned my methods, he'd stood beside me without wavering. You did what needed to be done, he'd said one night when I broke down crying. You protected yourself. There's no shame in that. My assistant approached with a tablet. Ms. Ashford, the shareholders' meeting prep is ready. And Fortune magazine called again. They want to schedule the cover shoot for next month. Fortune magazine. The cover story was titled The Comeback CEO, How Quinn Ashford Turned Family Betrayal into Billion-Dollar Business Strategy. Tell them I'll do the shoot, but I want approval on the photos. Already negotiated that. They agreed that I'd hired well. My entire team was exceptional. The elevator doors opened, and Warren stepped out. I froze. He looked different. Thinner. His hair was completely white now instead of silver. He wore khakis and a simple polo shirt instead of his usual designer suits. He looked like a man who'd aged a decade in 6 months. Quinn. He approached hesitantly. I called ahead. Maria said you might have a few minutes. I have 5 minutes before my meeting. That's all I need. We walked to a quiet corner of the lobby, near the windows overlooking the city. How have you been? He asked. Busy. The company's doing well. I've been reading about it. The turnaround is remarkable. Silence settled between us. Outside, traffic moved through downtown Seattle. Normal life continuing while ours had fundamentally changed. I'm in therapy now, Warren said quietly. 3 times a week. Working through things. That's good. I'm also in AA. I didn't realize how much I was drinking. Using it to avoid facing what I'd become. I looked at him. Really looked. His hands weren't shaking anymore. His eyes were clearer. He stood straighter, but with less arrogance. More humility. Why are you telling me this? Because I want you to know I'm trying. To be better. To understand the damage I caused. He swallowed hard. I got a call last week. From your father. First time in 5 months. He apologized. Said he understood why I did what I did. Said he was proud of me. My throat tightened unexpectedly. He said it took losing everything to realize what he'd lost years ago. Warren nodded slowly. That's exactly right. I lost you long before that Christmas Eve. I just refused to see it. Why? The question burst out before I could stop it. Why did you choose them over me? Why did you give Blair everything that should have been mine? He was quiet for a long moment, staring out the window. Guilt, he finally said. Your mother and I had a terrible marriage toward the end. She was sick, and I was angry that I couldn't fix it. When she died, I felt like I'd failed her. Failed you. So when Vivian came along offering a fresh start, a new family, a chance to do things differently, I took it. And Blair became the daughter I could succeed with. The one I hadn't already disappointed, so you erased me. I thought I was protecting you. Giving you space to build your own life. But really, I was just protecting myself from facing my own failures as a father. Tears stunned my eyes. I blinked them back. You can't fix this with therapy and apologies, Dad. I know. But I can try to be someone worth knowing. Someone who deserves a second chance, even if I never get one. My assistant appeared, gesturing to her watch. Ms. Ashford, the meeting, tell them I'll be there in 2 minutes. She nodded and disappeared. I turned back to Warren. I don't forgive you. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I don't hate you either. That's more than I deserve. Yes. It is. I adjusted my blazer. I have to go. Shareholders meeting. Of course. I'll let you get back to work. He started to leave, then turned back. Quinn? Thank you. For saving the company. For not letting Grandpa's legacy die with my mistakes. I nodded once, then walked toward the conference room. That evening, Reed picked me up at 6:45 p.m. We drove to a quiet restaurant in Capitol Hill, the kind of place with dim lighting and private booths. After we ordered, he reached across the table and took my hand. Your father showed up today, I heard. How are you feeling about it? Confused. Angry. Sad. All of it at once. That's normal. It's normal that part of me wants to forgive him. Reed squeezed my hand gently. Quinn, you're one of the strongest people I know. But you're also human. Wanting to forgive the people who hurt you doesn't make you weak. It makes you capable of growth, but what if forgiving him means accepting what he did was okay? Forgiveness doesn't mean that. It means you're choosing not to let his mistakes define your future. He paused. Can I tell you what I see when I look at you? What? I see someone who took rejection and turned it into rocket fuel. Who took dismissal and built an empire nobody can ignore. Who took cruelty and responded with precision. He leaned forward. But you didn't become them, Quinn. You're tough. You're strategic. But you're not cruel. That's the difference. Sometimes I wonder if I am cruel. If what I did to him was too much, you exposed fraud. You protected investors. You saved a company from complete collapse. The fact that it hurt your father in the process doesn't make it wrong. Our food arrived. We ate in comfortable silence for a while. My assistant said Blair called the office today. I said eventually. What did she want? To tell me she got a job. Marketing coordinator at a startup in New York. She's been in therapy for 4 months. How do you feel about that? Proud of her, actually. She's building something real for the first time in her life. Reed smiled. See? You're not cruel. A cruel person wouldn't care if Blair succeeded. Maybe I'm just complicated. Everyone interesting is, after dinner, we walked through the city. The summer air was warm, the streets busy with people enjoying the long evening light. Quinn, Reed said as we stopped at a crosswalk, what do you want? Long term, what do you mean? You've accomplished everything you set out to do. Exposed the fraud. Taken control of the company. Proven your worth to everyone who doubted you. So what's next? I thought about that question. What did I want? I want to stop living in reaction to what they did. I want to build something because I love it, not because I'm trying to prove them wrong. That's a good answer. I want a family someday. Kids. But one where everyone is seen and valued. Where success isn't a competition. Also a good answer. And I want you. In all of it, Reed stopped walking and turned to face me. You have me. For as long as you want me. He kissed me there on the street corner, and for the first time in months, I felt something other than vindication or satisfaction. I felt peace. 3 weeks later, I did something I never expected to do. I invited Warren and Blair to dinner, not at a restaurant. At my apartment. The home they'd never seen because they'd never bothered to visit. Reed was there too, cooking in the kitchen while I set the table. Maria had helped me pick out a menu, nothing fancy, just good food prepared with care. When they arrived, both looked nervous. Warren wore a simple button-down shirt and jeans. Blair wore a sundress, her hair pulled back in a casual ponytail. Both of them looked more real than I'd ever seen them. Thank you for inviting us, Warren said, handing me a bottle of wine. Come in. We sat down to dinner. The conversation was awkward at first. Careful. Each of us testing boundaries, trying to figure out what this new relationship looked like. I've been in therapy, Blair said quietly, halfway through the meal. Learning about family systems. About scapegoating. About how Mom and Dad used our relationship to make themselves feel better. She swallowed hard. I'm sorry, Quinn. I'm sorry I went along with it. I'm sorry I never stood up for you. I looked at her and saw genuine remorse. I forgive you, I said, and meant it. Warren cleared his throat. I don't deserve forgiveness. I know that. But I want you to know that everything you've built, everything you've achieved, I see it now. I see you. And I'm sorry it took losing everything to open my eyes. I nodded slowly. I needed you to see me 12 years ago. On Christmas Eve 3 years ago. Even 6 months ago would have been nice. I paused. But I don't need it anymore. I see myself. And that's what matters. Reed raised his glass. To new beginnings. We all raised our glasses. The wine was good. The food was simple but delicious. The conversation remained careful but honest. As we left that night, snow began to fall, just like it had that Christmas Eve when everything changed. Standing at my door, watching them walk away, I realized something. Being told I wasn't welcome at that entrance was the best thing that ever happened to me. It forced me to stop seeking their approval and start building my own empire. It pushed me to stop hoping they'd see me and start making sure the whole world did. Sometimes the cruelest gift becomes the catalyst for the greatest transformation. Sometimes being unwelcome at your father's door means you're meant to build your own. If you've ever been rejected by the people who were supposed to protect you, if you've ever been told you weren't good enough, if you've ever stood on the outside looking in, know this: their rejection isn't your reality. Their blindness isn't your worth. Build something they can't ignore. Become someone they can't dismiss. And then, if you're generous, give them the gift of witnessing your success from a distance. Thank you for listening to my story. If this resonated with you, leave a comment about a time when rejection pushed you towards something greater. Share your story. Your words might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Remember, the entrance they block might be the doorway you needed to walk away from. Subscribe for more stories about boundaries, consequences, and the satisfaction of proving everyone wrong. Share this with someone who's been made to feel invisible. Until next time, this is Quinn Ashford reminding you, when they say you're not welcome, build your own damn house, and make it better than anything they could have given you.